Greetings and salutations, everyone. My name is Samus, and I am taking part of what Nivmin is calling Brewtober. Basically, the general idea is that you're trying to come up with something a little bit new, a little bit different, basically for your Dungeons & Dragons campaign. You kind of brew up. I'm going to take it a couple steps further. I'm going to try to do one of these little cut videos every day that I do my normal DDO stream over on twitch.tv/SamusGarobo. So you're welcome to check this stuff out live and throw ideas and input my direction. One of the other things I'm going to try to do is at the end of this, the end of the month, hopefully all the bits and pieces are going to be there so someone can actually do a Dungeons & Dragons adventure. Not necessarily an entire campaign, but a little bit of adventure. So I'm going to start with a little bit of background on a lot of how I like to play Dungeons & Dragons, how I like to DM, and one of the things that has been inspiring me a lot over the last couple of years. So, first of all, for those of you who don't know what this monster is currently up on the screen, it's known as the SPO Weaver. It is pretty much always my villain in the last couple of years. I'm not sure when, I'm not sure why I read about the SPO Weaver and it captured my attention. And I'm not even sure what the current rule set is for the SPO Weaver, to be fair, for 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons. But when I fell in love with the SPO Weaver, the idea was it is a creature that has 6 lives. It has the ability to cast 12 levels, I believe. 12 levels? Maybe it's 6 levels. 6 levels worth of spells at the same time. So it can cast 6 magic missiles at the same time, or it can cast 2 fireballs at the same time. Basically, every hand it has the ability to cast spells. And it's obsessed with the idea of gaining more knowledge and gaining more power. So, traditionally, for me, this SPO Weaver has been my overall arching villain. And a lot of what I do with this guy is I use him as a overall plot device. So like if magic items go missing in the campaign, he might be using magic to fuel his batteries for his fiendish creations, etc. So over the years he's changed a lot. If you Google SPO Weaver, I think this is one of the older versions of the SPO Weaver. Kind of looks like a weird alien with a bunch of extra arms. Then there's this version of it wearing an outfit, which is pretty sweet. Then there's this newest version, which looks even more awesome. So, for me, the SPO Weaver is like a techno spellcaster in Eberron. So all of my adventures in the last, basically since Eberron have come out, have been set in Eberron. And since I started playing Dungeons & Dragons Online, I really love the idea of using Tanglewood Gorge in particular. There's something about that dungeon for me that I really like. And the fact that there's a nice big wilderness area right there that you can do all sorts of cool things really is like the place that I like to go. For some reason, the one-eared bugbear is just like my favorite idea of an inn. So, now that we got my main villain, he needs minions, right? And one of the things that I like to do is I become inspired, or I take inspiration from TV shows, etc. I'm sure everybody does. But for me, one of the things that I've often tapped into is Zoids. I don't know if you're familiar with the Zoids cartoon, but the general idea is they have these giant robots of various animals that they get into and they battle. This one that is kind of up on the screen here as I float around is called the Blade Liger, and it's one of my favorite ones to kind of brew up around. And it's pretty simple. Then some of these are going to be very loose guidelines, and some of the examples are going to be very, very fine guidelines. So this is how I've explained it in the past, and I'm going to do my best to re-explain it now. But the SPO Weaver likes to take actual living creatures and mutate or magically adapt for the ability to take additional upgrades. Think of like half golems. Half golems are one of my favorite things in Dungeons and Dragons. It's an old 2nd edition kit that you could apply to things. Well, think of the SPO Weaver as a guy who makes custom golems or custom half golems and applies that kit to creatures. So what I would do is I would mutate like a dire lion. I don't even know if dire lion is still a thing. Looks like it is. Over here. So I'd mutate a dire lion. If you look at it, this thing is a challenge rating 5. It's got 60 hit points. It's very fast. It's got not a great armor class, but it's got a huge claw attack, plus 13 melee attack for a d6 plus 7. It's pretty good for 5th edition. And then its full attack is claw, bite. So what I would just do is I would take this stat block, just as it is, and I would increase it like 2 or 3 challenge ratings. The first thing I would do is I would give it a run by attack. Okay? So that gives it the ability to like basically pass by a creature and still get at least 1 attack in. The other thing I would do is, remember how I talked about how they like merge together in these half kits, these half golem type kits? Well, what I would do is the kit would include the ability to use 2 great swords and basically have the full capability range to be able to fight with these 2 great swords, but they're not doing it in their hands. What they have is these extra little nodules that plug into different pieces of equipment and machinery, so that these dire lions could be upgraded on the fly. So the way I normally do a blade Liger, right, would be you get a run by attack, you get 2 different great swords. If your player characters will not be challenged quite enough by a challenge rating 8 monster, then you go ahead and you add like a weapon type to it, so like electric or vorpal or whatever you need to add to kind of spice it up a little bit more. You increase the armor class a couple of points. Again, you want it to still be hittable, and you need to look at other monsters around challenge rating 8. For 5th edition, I would imagine that's probably like a 20, maybe a 20. Yeah, 20 probably is about right for 5th edition. Maybe 21 if you really want to make like a boss dire lion Liger thing. And then I usually add a stealth kit, right? And basically what I do is I come up with these different kits, and then you're able to like plug them onto the animal in question. So a stealth kit would basically be the ability to cast improved invisibility like twice a day. Usually it attacks from the first time from stealth, just because that's how I've always done it that way. I guess I've always used it as a surprise attacker, usually with a run by attack, trying to take out somebody's legs to start with, and then run back off into the wilderness. And then the last important part of this is the ability to jump. I always add a big jump kit to the dire lions, which basically just give them the ability to boost a little bit further away if they end their turn in a leap, just so they can try to like get away a little bit faster, or to increase their charge into action. I never use it in the middle of a combat, so that the monsters don't run, then leap, and then charge some more. It's always at the start or the end to either engage the enemies or to escape from the enemies and try to get out of range. The other thing that kind of goes along with the SPO Weaver minion type class of monsters is that I try to give them a visual clue to make sure so the players know what's going on. And what I usually do is I usually have a like a veiny web across the creature's skin that they can see, kind of like humans and various other monsters in Dungeons and Dragons in the Eberron campaign settings have dragon marks. It's kind of very similar to that. And then I usually say that it like pulses with a purple magic or something. And then there's usually like a gem somewhere, like a control gem, or some sort of way that the animal has gained the ability to know how to use these new attacks and stuff. So if they were to somehow take out that gem, then they would lose the special attacks and the ability to use their kits that allow them to attack with this new upgraded abilities. So say if you're somebody who is okay with it, you could have the gym have like a super high armor class of say like 25 in 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons, or like even 30 in like the new Pathfinder setting. Something really high that a character that has engaged these animals several times in the past maybe could use to like do in the equivalent of a called shot, you know, back in the day. Like, I see that he's got, like, I found his control gem, it's on his chest or behind his head or wherever it happens to be, and then called shot essentially to be able to take that out. Usually they just have like 10 hit points, whatever, they're just a little gem, and then when that happens they immediately lose the abilities to access their those upgrades, right? And the nice thing about these upgrades is as you start building them, you can just add, plug and play as you need them. So what I'll try to do is on my website, samusgarobo.com, I'll try to try to like add a couple of these kits in mine. I'll put together a blade kit. I'll try to give like the leap kit. I'll try to give the invisibility kit. Or have the gym to have DR/magic. Stuff like that, exactly, Beef. It lets you kind of fiddle and play around a little bit. The next couple of videos, I'm going to do 1 or 2 more Zoid-like upgrades. So my favorite Zoid is the Elephander, so spoiler alert, we're going to have an Elephander probably in the next video. Alright everybody, again, this is day 1 of Brewtober. So I'm looking forward to getting into this. I am cheating a little bit and talking about some of the stuff I've already used in the recent past, but I think this is a good way to get started and kind of inspire people. So if you would like to take the challenge, basically the idea is that you're going to brew up something either new or at least share some brews that you've had in the past with everybody, and I'm looking forward to seeing those. If you'd like to share those with me, please hit my Twitch page or leave a comment on the video. I'd really appreciate it. Alright, peace, much love, and don't forget how badass the SPO Weaver is. Toodles.